Hi, everybody. Welcome to Healing with Marcus. I'm Shaman Marcus, and we are going to be discussing today the importance of know thyself. What does that mean, and where did that saying come from, and why is it important to know thyself? Because when we look at this world that we're living in, if we look at our society today, now the saying is at least 2,000 years old, at least from the time of Jesus, but way before that as well. The Hindu, Indian guru lineage, we're talking about it back in the 2,000 years before Christ. And then it went into the Buddhism at 800 before Christ as well. So it's a very deep tenet in spiritual teachings and in spiritual knowledge, is to know thyself. And if we look at how do we know ourselves today, so many of us can be lost to the outer reality, to the outer world, meaning the matrix. And the matrix, we can say, is our society. It's the agreements we have all entered into. I agree that it's good to make a lot of money so I can buy a nice car. I agree to sell my soul so I can be comfortable, so that other people think I'm popular, whatever it might be, right? And what we often fail to recognize is that the agreements of our matrix has become very much soul selling. We are selling our integrity and our authenticity in order to gain followers, to gain attraction, to gain some form of fame. And all of it is very outside oriented, right? So all of it is like looking outside to get validation for who we think we are inside. When it comes into know thyself, you can only find that in your inner stillness. You can only find that in going deep within. And yes, counseling, therapy, and other psychedelic medicine journeys can be very, very helpful. But to truly know yourself is to truly come back home into yourself and find that spark of life of yourself. That spark that makes your heart tick all the time. That makes all the cells in your body divide all the time. Life is a process that's happening inside of us and through us all the time. Just like it happens in nature, in all the trees, in all the grass, in all the animals, all the time. This is a creative process, or the creative process of life. And what so many of us are failing to see is that we still have, like, even if times seemingly have changed, seemingly we're living in a modern day society that, supposedly is so very enlightened and very wise, and we're so clever, we can travel to space and we can see things and, all of these things, right? On some levels we are very advanced, and on other levels we are still living in what we could refer to, in a derogatory way, we could say the Stone Age or something like that, which, of course, the Stone Age wasn't bad. It was just another time. Just like our times now aren't bad in themselves. It's just another time. That in 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, they'll look back on our times and maybe they'll call that modern Stone Age. Maybe we're living in a modern Stone Age right now, because technology has gone really kind of far, but it's gone far ahead of us. And we have not gathered or entered into the new time and new space with our hearts. See, in our modern day society, mind is still running the show. And everything is about control. Everything is about thinking that we can control either the environment or each other or populations, or government thinks that they have a right to control everybody. It's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, right? Where it's a lot of outside focus. And when we come back home, which we always do in meditation, we find out who we are. We find out both the traumas that are hiding in our system. We learn about the traumas that are sticking around, right? The trauma that's making you feel like an outsider, making you feel like you don't belong, making you feel like you never had a place, maybe. or whatever your trauma is telling you, right? When we start to see, oh, that's my trauma speaking. Oh, there's a program attached to that trauma. There's a whole thought process attached to a feeling of being an outsider or being isolated or being alone or being whatever it might be that is your particular trauma. And that whole program that runs, we can start to see that maybe it's running a lot of our lives. Maybe it's running how we see life. And there are many famous philosophers and scientists and everyone stating that life becomes how you see it, right? What you see in life is what you get in life. So the more, and then that's where we come into the healing of the traumas, right? We start to recognize, oh, my pattern is coming back in, my thought pattern. Oh, they'll never like me, whatever it might be. My thought pattern is activated again. Let me sit with it. Let me feel into my system. Where is this? Where am I feeling this? Where is this pain coming from? And then I'm breathing space into it. And as I breathe space into that, I am creating more space for the body to keep healing itself. I'm creating more space so that the trauma can begin to move. And as it moves, more life force energy starts to come up. And as that happens, we feel fulfilled inside. And at that point, it becomes easier to what we call know thyself. It becomes easier to come back home and be like, I'm starting to feel good. I'm starting to feel like my heart is healing. I'm starting to feel like my chakra systems are aligning. I'm starting to feel a little more whole in my sacral chakra, in my root chakra, and in my solar plexus. I feel more supported in my energy system. And as we're feeling more supported, we are able to reach within and start to go into that space of know thyself. When we know ourselves, we start to recognize how much of life spark or God spark we are, right? How much of a fragment of this whole world you and I make up. And on the highest higher self is of course part of what they call the Godhead, which is way in further dimensions and realms than where we are right now, right? But you have your higher self as an extension from the Godhead. And as you sit with your higher self, which is that highest intention for yourself, for this time on this planet, for this time in this incarnation, in this body. This is why you can feel when your heart is aligned. When your heart goes, oh, I'm happy. Oh, I love doing this because I feel aligned with it. It excites my soul, my spirit. My heart opens up. See, this is how we know we're on the right path. When we are feeling that excitement. And of course, it may not come right away. Or it's been there all along. For some of us, it's been there all along. And for others, it's hidden. It's hidden underneath layers of denial, layers of control, layers of fear. No, I couldn't do that. No, I'm not good enough for that. Oh no, that's not for me. Even though you feel like it is for you. Right? So knowing thyself is both on the level of what excites your heart, what makes your heart open up. But it's also knowing how much part of the whole you are. That when we reach our higher self, that we come in touch with our guides and we come into touch with our higher self, which is that feeling of, oh goodness, there's peace. There's an internal sense of peace inside of me. And I feel like I can act up to my higher self. Because when we act out of fear, when we're acting out of fear in these kind of lower vibrational patterns, whether it be very gossipy or hoarding or greedy or whatever it may be, right? We are keeping ourselves in a lower frequency. And when we let that fear run our lives, we are actually not acting out what the higher self wants us to do on this planet in this incarnation. So this is where that opening of your heart becomes so exciting. This is why know thyself Know that you are a part of the whole. Know that that you are created in the image of what they call, some people refer to it as God or creators or makers. And if those makers are of another species from other planets, it's not impossible at all. But when you start to know that higher frequency field, that higher vibration in your heart, you're coming into alignment with your higher self, with the intention for why you're here. And even though we might have gone through severe traumas, severe tragedies in our lives, because many of us have, right? Many of us have gone through some hard times. And when we start to see that these hard times were there to teach us to be more true to our higher self, and that the people who are able to listen to their higher self early on in life may not have to go through the heavy-duty karmic realities that some of us have lived through. And when I look at my life, I can easily see that most of the hard times I went through came from me not listening, not paying attention to what my heart was saying. And then I set in motion through my life these almost like reverberances or like echoes, like you it's like rings on the water. And the choices we make then create these other rings on the water that we may not want. Because we made choices from a lower fear-based sense of self. And then here's another part of the know yourself, know thyself, right? So the layers that we have that are made up around ourselves of, I sold my soul to being popular on Instagram. I sold my soul to being popular on this or that, or to get a lot of followers, or get whatever it may be. We are feeding what they, in the Toltec traditions, in Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote The Four Agreements. The Four Agreements is this beautiful book. And the Toltec wisdom is shamanic wisdom out of South America or out of Mexico, Middle America, Central America. And it's got long traditions, right? Old traditions. And what they talk about a parasite that grabs a hold of us, and then often we live with the parasite within us. And the parasite is made up of fear. So the parasite of fear grabs a hold of us when we are 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, and we enter into what we call the grown-up world, which is very unfortunate that we call it that, right? Because it means that when you're more fearful as an adult than you were as a kid, that's being an adult. That's being a responsible, grown-up adult human being. All it means is we have agreed to, the fear is real, and we need to pay our bills, and we need to not get kicked out of our homes, and we need to pay our taxes, and we need to be afraid to lose our job. All those feelings of fear that are sort of woven into so many parts of our lives. And when you break out of that, you realize, oh my God, it's the parasite of fear that grabbed us, that has us. And when we're in that state of fear grabbing us, we also end up creating a false sense of self. It's a mask, right? It's a false sense of self that is not true to know thyself. It's not true to thyself. That false sense of self is true to whatever is going on in the world outside. How can I make more money on this? How can I trick more people into this or that? Right? Authenticity has truly left our society on so many levels. So as we come back home and we know ourselves, you know yourself, you begin to feel safe in the now. You begin to feel like, oh, hang on, I'm in touch with my heart. I'm in touch with this. And in this moment, that's all I need. In this moment, all I need to, when we're meditating or when we're contemplating, all I need is to sit and listen. And then when the sign of action comes in, when you feel like, oh, maybe I should do this, and then you feel like aligned with it, and you start taking inspired action based on the intuitive knowing that's coming through you when you know yourself. And we then start to create beautiful ripples on the surface of our life energy, of the field of life itself. So, know thyself. It's a beautiful, beautiful saying. And it is so imperative. If you want to be on a spiritual journey, on a spiritual path, this is one thing we want to strive towards. Know thyself. And it means to know the layers of ourselves that are fear-based. It means to know, oh my God, I was just dishonest. Oh my God, I just lied about this. I am overly lustful. I'm overly, what are the words? Like I overindulge in food or in social media or news or whatever it might be. I'm escaping. Knowing yourself could be that part of knowledge, right? Like, which is a fairly superficial level of knowing, but it's still knowing ourselves is starting to, take away the veil from your eyes, to open your eyes to see yourself in the light of God. Where you start to recognize, oh, so I have suffered. And when I have suffered, I have come up with these, my brain, my mind, and my energy came up with these different methods of dealing with suffering. But now that we're on a spiritual journey, we can digest it. We help to heal it. And as we do, we start to grow. So knowing yourself is very, very important, imperative for this journey. It's my birthday today, and I'm very happy that I get to sit here with you. I hope you're doing wonderful, and I will see you soon. Join our lives on Monday nights. We do a talk for about 20, 30 minutes, and then we do a healing session. All right. So much love to you. Know thyself. Namaste. And aho.